All right, I think we are rolling. I think we are premiering on Facebook Live. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Ron.
Morning, Dave. Morning, Israel. Buenos
Buenos
dias.
días.
Buenos dias, Israel. I'm really excited about today. This Tuesday, we are getting to focus, first of all, not only get an update, we're going to get an update about how our pastors and church and community leaders are already responding to the COVID-19 crisis in El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nepal. But then we're also going to focus on a really interesting topic for me, which is economic development. And so that's why we have Israel here with us. Bienvenido, Israel.
Gracias.
Welcome to Israel, and we're really excited to have him here. Ron, why don't we start off? We'll dive into the economic situation here in a few minutes, but Ron, why don't you give us a quick update of kind of where we're at right now in terms of church and community engagement through this, responding to this crisis?
Well, as we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been preparing churches to work with their community associations so they can identify the most vulnerable families and create a short-term plan to address primarily their food needs. At this point, you have families that have been, 5-6 weeks now without being able to get out. Very vulnerable families that are already have very limited reserves for food, et cetera. So it's a huge crisis right now for many of these families. They have 4 to 5 days worth of food, and we've been trying to encourage the churches and communities to respond. As of right now, 55 churches in El Salvador are working or beginning to work with their community associations to identify families. They've identified close to 8,000 families in El Salvador, of which we've created tools now for them to identify the most needy by priority of 1, 2, 3. So there's about 1,000 families that these churches are trying to respond to immediately because they're the highest priority. And in fact, in this week, we are handing out the first 150 packages to families. Those are packages for 15 days worth of food. We're also helping the churches in El Salvador coordinate. The government's going to do a mass handout here in the next 5, 6, 7 days. We're trying to make sure that gets to these families and then helping the church community understand where those gaps are. In Guatemala, they've already provided food for about 120 families, and now they're hoping to add 259 families, this week. Provide food for 259 families in Guatemala. So the same thing in Guatemala, there's 3 churches we're working with this week to get those 259 families cared for. Next week, there'll be another batch of 5 churches in Guatemala. And then the same way in El Salvador, every week we'll be trying to get to somewhere between 200 and 250 families per week over the next 3 to 4 weeks as we kind of try to ramp up what we're doing. So everyone is in action. In Guatemala, the pastors can actually go out and they're buying with the community the larger bulks of food that they can distribute and make it into packages. El Salvador is still highly restricted for us to go out. So Enlace is actually making a partnership with the Red Cross in El Salvador, who has all the permits to be able to deliver. And between Red Cross and Enlace, we're going to be able to deliver these food supplies to the families over the next 3 to 4 weeks.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's for those of you who haven't been following along on the process so far, and you're familiar with Enlace, the way that we're typically structured of doing long-term community development projects, we've taken this pivot to be able to be focused and respond to what churches and communities are doing right now to respond to the hunger and health crises that they're facing in their communities, and completely restructured the organization to revolve around that, with 4 different teams in El Salvador for each region, a team for Guatemala and a team for Nepal, and even our communications and fundraising staff in El Salvador being assigned to each of those teams, our technical staff, our civil engineers and medical doctors, et cetera, being assigned to each of those teams. And so it's been really, really neat to see that. So yeah, thanks, Ron, for that update. And it's just incredible to see how the pastors and church leaders are already, they're mobilized, they're going ahead, and for us just to be able to help walk alongside them is pretty incredible. So today we're going to be focused primarily talking about economic development. And as we, talk about, most of Enlace's focus is usually in these these long-term community development projects that are done, between church and community, local resources, focused together. A lot of you might not know that we actually have a separate sister organization called Credit Tech, which is actually a microfinance institution, an actual credit union that is able to provide loans and business coaching. So, Ron, why don't you tell us just real briefly about Credit Tech, and then let's shift to Israel and have Israel tell us how his engagement, how your engagement, Israel, has been with Enlace and Credit Tech over these years.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. For there to be any long-term sustained change in a community, you have to at some point address the economic issues. People have to be able to generate enough income, whether it's through farming or their own businesses or actually getting a job at a factory or somewhere else, so that they can maintain their house, so that they can maintain water, so that they can maintain food, so that they can get their kids to school. So as part of the overall strategy that Enlace has been working on now for 20 whatever years, is helping church and communities think through economic development as a community, which is not very easy, because many people think that business is an individual thing. We don't talk about it. It's kind of everyone's on their own. So it takes a while for church communities to realize, hey, but there are some things that we could maybe do together, strengthen co-ops, or introduce new technology for ag, or maybe there are some things we could do with savings or with loan programs to incentivize economic growth. So about, I think 18 years ago, if I'm not wrong, we realized that many of these communities, they needed a credit component to either expand their businesses, to grow their farms or their small businesses. But we didn't want the church providing loans, and we didn't want Enlace to provide loans. We thought it was really critical that Enlace really focus on equipping and creating these relationships and helping the community engage their needs together, and the church focus on what the church should do, which is building relationships and being a catalytic change agent in the community. So we didn't want them to get involved in loans. So we created a separate credit union, which is what Dave, you just mentioned, called Credit Tech, which provides loans and business coaching and training for micro and small farmers and entrepreneurs. And we've been doing that for about 18 years. And Israel actually started as a credit officer for Credit Tech and then moved into Enlace, and now is running the whole credit operation. So Credit Tech, Israel, maybe you would want to tell us a little bit about how you got engaged with Enlace and Credit Tech and what your role has been in that. Israel, tal vez nos pudieras compartir un poco más sobre cómo llegas a Enlace y cuál es tu rol en Credit Tech actualmente.
Bueno, antes que nada, gracias por la invitación.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Formo parte del Ministerio de Enlace desde el 2006, prácticamente llevo 14 años.
I've been with Enlace for 14 years, since 2006.
Comencé colaborando como asesor empresarial.
I started by being a credit officer.
Tuve el privilegio de ser como 4 años el coordinador del programa de desarrollo económico comunitario.
And then I went into, and I had the privilege of being the coordinator of the community economic development program for Enlace.
Y actualmente estoy coordinando el programa de créditos de Credit de RL.
And I'm currently the director of credit operations for the credit union.
Atendiendo aproximadamente más de 150 familias con créditos.
So we're currently working with over 150 families right now with loans and business assistance and training.
Y con muchos deseos de poder ayudar y aportar a estas familias a poder salir de esta crisis muy difícil.
And really have a burden to help these families walk through this crisis with success.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. And so Israel has actually been able to be a part of both Credit Tech and Enlace. Their sister organizations, Credit Tech being the credit union doing the actual lending and loaning and business coaching, and then obviously the Enlace side. And he, like you said, was head of over the economic development side on Enlace, and has been, at Credit Tech on both sides. So as in El Salvador, many of you know that the restrictions have been incredibly tight on anyone going out and about. And for a lot of our staff, they literally have only left their house maybe once or twice in 6 weeks. You have to have an actual permit to be going out. Israel, I know you've actually had an opportunity to be out and about a little bit more, visiting with these clients, with the over 150 different clients that you have. Tell us about the situation right now in terms of the coronavirus, and how it's affecting businesses, small and mid-sized businesses in El Salvador.
Tal vez nos pudieras explicar, Irra, un poco sobre cómo el virus o la crisis de COVID-19 está impactando a estos pequeños y microempresarios.
Bueno, sí, el impacto prácticamente es a nivel nacional, ¿verdad?
It's it's impacting the entire nation.
Quizás para poder ser más puntual, voy a dar unos 2, 3 ejemplos de clientes nuestros que han sido impactados actualmente.
To highlight the situation that many of these micro entrepreneurs are going through, I'd like to focus on 2 or 3 very specific stories of how this is impacting their businesses and lives.
Por ejemplo, don Oscar, un microempresario que se dedica a dar transporte en la comunidad, tiene ya 2 meses que no puede salir de su comunidad dando su servicio. Por ende, sus ingresos por 2 meses no existen.
So, for example, Don Oscar, who's a client of ours, he provides transportation in their community, but also from the community out. And he hasn't been able to leave his house now for 2 months. So he's had 0 income now for 60 something days.
Ellos han sobrevivido porque tienen una tiendita también en su casa, pero las ventas han bajado un 60% porque la gente de su comunidad no tiene para comprar ahorita.
And they've supplemented their income with a little store that they run out of their house, but their sales have been down by 60%, partly because people don't have money to buy, but also because they can't leave their houses as well.
Otra clienta se llama Leonor. Ella tiene un chalet en un colegio, en una escuela de educación. Ya está cerrado por 2 meses. Por ende, pues no tiene ingresos ella desde marzo y abril.
And another client, her name is Leonor, and she actually runs the store in a public school. It's a little cafe area for kids to eat and to buy, snacks and stuff. And the schools have been closed now for 2 months. So like Oscar, she has had 0 income over the last 2 months.
Y otra cliente que se llama Gloria, ella vende calzado para hombre y mujer y sale a vender en diferentes lugares de San Salvador a mercados, pero no la dejan circular porque no es un producto de primera necesidad. Por ende ella, aunque ha querido salir, pues no puede porque no le permiten circular.
Another client named Gloria sells shoes, and she sells shoes not only in a marketplace but also house to house, and she hasn't been able to go out. And also because she's not an essential worker or doesn't provide an essential service.
Prácticamente creo que es muy duro y cuando uno habla con los clientes, puede escuchar uno en su semblante, en su voz, la preocupación, no saben cómo van a hacer adelante, que no tienen nada para comprar, para comer, es muy yuca, es muy difícil.
So it's been really difficult for us as we talk to clients by phone or WhatsApp and in different ways to really hear the anxiety and the fear and the worry in their voices, because many of the clients that we talk to do not know how they're going to provide food for their families and how they're going to be able to rescue their businesses and make a go of it even after this crisis is done.
Right. Yeah, and that's really interesting. Those 3 different categories of businesses, of small businesses, of transportation. Clearly, transportation is locked down, right? And then it's the schools. Of course, none of them are meeting right now, and you don't think of that actually affecting businesses as well directly. But obviously, she has a little tienda, a little store there inside of it, and then the idea of a vendor. So many people, from what I've experienced in El Salvador, their small businesses include just being able to sell today in order to eat tomorrow. And what Credit Tech usually can offer are these opportunities to get ahead and actually get some savings. And so, Israel, how are you helping and responding? How is Credit Tech responding to some of these families during this time, even if it's just emotional, technical, or moral support along the way.
¿En qué forma están ayudando ustedes como asesores empresariales a estos clientes durante este tiempo difícil?
Creo que el que más ha tenido quizás realce en este momento es el apoyo moral.
The primary thing that we're really trying to demonstrate and provide our clients is just that moral support.
Ellos saben que pues no podemos de otra manera, un préstamo nuevo no se puede ahorita. Sin embargo, ellos tienen que saber que Createc les interesa mucho su situación, ayudarles, estar pendiente de ellos, escuchar su situación para ver a futuro qué opciones podemos hacer con ellos.
We are not approving any new loans at this point because the situation is still so uncertain and the clients know that. So the critical thing is for us to create that kind of relationship with the client so that they feel like we're together in this and that we're trying to think through how we're going to help them on the next steps. So really staying engaged with them, really trying to help them understand their businesses, but also giving them hope that we will be able to help them move out or move forward when the time is right.
And yeah, speaking of that, why don't Israel tell us a little bit more about then what are going to be the next steps that you can foresee? You know, clearly we've been focused on trying to lay out some strategic actions and steps in the months ahead. What are some of those next steps that you can foresee for small businesses and the ways in which Credit Tech is going to be able to help them?
¿Cuáles son algunos pasos que pudiéramos tomar como Createc en los próximos meses para ayudarle a estos clientes?
Pues estamos creando un listado de las personas más necesitadas. Sé que todos están necesitados, pero hay quienes que no tienen ya para comer en los próximos días. Tratar de crear una canasta de víveres para poderles llevar víveres. Eso quizás es lo más inmediato como para aporte que podríamos hacer como institución, como ministerio para estas familias.
So the very first thing we're doing is, even as a business, as a credit union, we've identified some key families that we know have 5 to 6 days left of food in their house. And we've been working with them to figure out how we can provide also food baskets or food supplies to them. So that's the first step we're taking right now to help these clients that we've identified are in greatest need.
Yeah. And as I imagine, as things begin to open up and hopefully, you know, God willing, they'll be able to open up here soon. Clearly, economic development is going to be, you know, one of the most important elements moving forward, you know, beyond health. And we've already recognized, right, that, you know, the mayor's offices, local government, regional, you know, all their money is going to be going towards health initiatives and then economic development. And so as things get opened up, describe for us like what that might look like, the next steps to help some of these families that you've been able to walk alongside, empathize with, you know, even providing the food baskets for, you know, what are going to be the next steps to help take them to the next level as things begin to open up.
¿Y cuáles pudieran ser los próximos pasos para estos clientes en, digamos, en junio, julio y agosto? ¿Cuáles son los próximos pasos al salir, ojalá, de estas restricciones para ayudarle a estos clientes?
Pues vamos a tener que atender cliente por cliente para ver su situación. Tratar de ver si necesitan un refinanciamiento o reprogramación o capital fresco para que ellos puedan comenzar de cero en sus negocios.
So the key issue for us is really understanding each business, each client, and their individual situation. Some might be able to refinance their loans, or we could reschedule their loans. They just need some fresh new capital to kind of get back on their feet and running. Others are going to need even more capital to really start from scratch. So some, for example, might already have some inventory. They just need to get it activated and rotating. Others had inventory and lost it all. So if it was a perishable or something else, then they need to rebuild their entire inventory. So it's going to require a larger amounts of capital to get them going. In other cases, you have companies that had inventory like shoes, but no one's buying right now. In other words, over the next 2 or 3 months, that's just not going to be a priority. People are trying to feed themselves. So it's really helping that company think through, is there something else you could do? Could you diversify? Is there something that you could sell temporarily until you can get back to selling shoes? So really it's not only a series of loan packages and different kind of refinancing, but also it's technical assistance and really consulting on helping them think through what the next steps are for their clients and for their businesses.
Nice. Yeah. I think that was a little more than what Israel said. But no, it is
We
actually,
work closely together.
I know you do. Absolutely. And él dijo un poquito más que usted había dicho, ¿verdad? No.
Agregué un poco ahí.
No, but that is actually, I'm glad you kind of explained it a little bit more, dove a little bit deeper with it as well, but exactly what Israel was saying was this concept of being able to really do individualized coaching and really walk alongside of businesses, individuals, because every individual is different. Every business is different. And I think it's really neat, even though that Credit Tech and Enlace are two separate organizations. Enlace, clearly what makes the organization unique is that long-term accompaniment and coaching and training with pastors and church leaders. But I just think it's really incredible to see how you are able to, care for these individual business owners and be able to provide them the needs, provide them the coaching and accompaniment they need to succeed from a business perspective as well. And so I just want to say thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I know that so many people are locked up. In other words, are not able to get out of their houses at all, but you've been able to have the permissions to get out and actually visit with these families. And that also isn't a risk in and of itself, even if getting stopped by the police, from what I hear, anytime people are out getting stopped by the police. And if you don't have your permiso, if you don't have your permit, you're going to be in trouble. So just want to congratulate you and thank you for all that you're doing, and know that we'll be praying for you.
Dice que te quiere felicitar, Israel, por todo lo que están haciendo como asesores empresariales para estos clientes, sabiendo que de alguna forma están asumiendo algún riesgo ustedes en salir. Sin embargo, es impresionante ver el grado de compromiso, de relación que ustedes tienen con los clientes y para poder en verdad crear algo personalizado. I can add a little bit here too, Dave. I think one of the things that and you can see it in Israel, you can see it in Giovanni, you can see it in the rest of the staff in Credit Tech. The goal of Credit Tech has never been just to go out and place and recover loans. There's lots of other microfinance credit unions that, will just place and recover. Really the focus of Credit Tech from the very beginning has been to build deep relationships, just like the Enlace model. The idea is and that's why we don't call them credit officers anymore. We call them business coaches or business consultants. And the idea is that they're really creating a long-term relationship with these families so they can kind of walk through a process of growth with them that hopefully leads to hiring more staff, but also can increase income, family income, and therefore increase investment in the community. So the idea of Credit Tech has never been to get to thousands and thousands. That might happen. But as we grow, the idea is to really stay connected, have intimate relationships with our clients, and really grow along with our client. So when Israel talks about Oscar or some of these other clients, it's because he's had a relationship with them for 5, 6, 7 years. He's helped them grow their companies. He knows their families. He's been to their houses. It's a whole different kind of model for how we're trying to do, microfinance, to serve as a microfinance institution to provide microloans. So once again, Israel's call and passion is to really care for people, both spiritually, morally, and try to really give them as much support as they can, not only financially, but with coaching to really see these families succeed. And they're doing an amazing job.
That's awesome. Yes. Te agradecemos, Israel. We appreciate you for all that you're doing down there and in El Salvador and what you've been doing over the years. Yeah, absolutely. And for all of you out there watching as well, we know that that you are already praying for the work going on in El Salvador and Guatemala and Nepal. But now that you've seen Israel's face as well, please keep Israel in your prayers and Credit Tech and all of the economic development that is desperately needed as we move forward out of this crisis. And I know that this episode of Facebook Live has been a little bit more technical in terms of diving into to what economic development looks like and the next steps through Credit Tech. But so we would ask you to stay engaged, first of all through prayer, and then as we talked about last week, give, sip, and run are kind of the easy standards. Giving directly to the relief and recovery efforts. That's number one. Number two is the sip. I got my coffee here, the Enlace coffee. And today is the deadline day to get your coffee for May. That coffee is literally being roasted like yesterday and today, and will be sent out like on Thursday of this week. So get signed up today at enlacecoffee.com. The coffee is absolutely incredible. And we added a couple of tiers for giving. It was just, $40 for one bag or $100 for 4 bags, but now we got 40, 60, 80. So you can get 2 or 3 bags per month as well as another option. So that's there. And then finally was the run, give, sip, and run. The run is hot tamales, the next one coming up, hottamale.run.com. You can do a virtual race that is going to be going towards real needs, right, and real impact. So even though it's just a virtual race, a 5K, that $40 entry or whatever additional donation you want to do, and you can rally a bunch of people to virtually run together, or even if this the social distancing rules ease a little bit, you can run together. So we're going to do that here in Missouri. I know Ron and Michelle have committed to doing that as well over there in Kansas side of things, and hopefully they'll be able to be doing that in El Salvador as well, with restrictions easing here around the corner. But Ron, I don't know if you have any last things you'd like to add, or Israel, si tiene algo más que quiere decir. Pero...
Sí,
Dale, Israel, pues yo termino.
Ok, bueno, gracias por la oportunidad, y quizás desde este país pues bendecimos a todas las personas que se involucran. Sé que esta situación es a nivel mundial, sin embargo todavía hay personas con un corazón grande que son tocados por Dios, y que lo que hacen para nuestro país pues es bien recibido, una bendición que sobre todo viene de parte de Dios.
Thank you again for the opportunity to be on the show. And I just want to thank all of our incredible friends and partners and stakeholders in the States that have given. We understand that the situation is global, and that everyone is being affected by this pandemic. But we do appreciate you responding to God's tug on your heart to give to El Salvador. We are extremely appreciative of all the help that we receive and support from every one of you. And muchas gracias de nuevo, Israel. Just quickly, Dave, to add on to what you were saying, we've been reporting on kind of the first stage as being food delivery and some hygiene products, soap and other stuff that are going to these families so they can care for each other. But as of June, we will start helping church communities think through economic development initiatives kind of for the next tier. So your resources that you're giving through all the different give, sip, run activities are going to be helping right now in the immediate for this, but then also circling back to help provide loans, provide ag assistance and training for farmers, and for business coaching for micro entrepreneurs. So that's kind of the next stage that we're already folding into the plan. So that's why it's so great to have Israel here, for you to meet him. Hopefully we can get him back, in a couple months, and he can tell us all the awesome stuff they're doing and give us an update. So thank you again, Israel, and back to you, Dave.
Yeah. Well, Ron, I was going to ask if you'd pray us out.
Sure.
And of course, we want to pray specifically for Israel and Credit Tech, and for, all of these businesses worldwide, really, that are just going through such difficult times. And I'm just thankful that we have somebody like Israel to help the businesses in El Salvador, family by family. So want to take away, Ron?
Heavenly Father, we humbly come before you and recognize that in the middle of this crisis, you are coming close. You are present with families throughout the United States and Canada and El Salvador, Guatemala, Nepal. You are walking into every home. You know every situation. And I know that your heart breaks when you see people that have been furloughed or have lost their jobs, or in the case of El Salvador, Guatemala, people that are micro entrepreneurs who can't sell today and therefore are afraid they're not going to be able to eat tomorrow. And I know your heart just is overwhelmed because you know them by name. You know their situation even better than we do. And I just pray that you might listen, that you might hear their calling out to you. And in some way, God, I know that it moves you. And I just pray that you'll continue to move all of us, whether it's our neighbors in the States where we know that one of our friends have lost their jobs, or maybe it's our immediate neighbor who has been furloughed. Lord, I just pray that you might use us to be your hands and feet to bring that sense of peace and to bring that sense of hope into their lives. I just pray that you might mobilize the church in general, all of us, to be that word, that soft, maybe it's just a word of encouragement, or maybe it's just the fact that to let them know that they're not there. In some cases, maybe we can help them with food, or we can help them in a very tangible way as they suffer, as they're worried about their families and where their next paycheck's going to come in and whether they're going to get rehired again. And I just thank you for Israel and the rest of the team in El Salvador who have this chance now to walk alongside, to really go after you have gone into these homes and know their names. And I just pray that they might go in your name, that they might go in your spirit, and that they might be able to provide care and love and hope. But also, God, that you might give them wisdom on how to help really provide very specific technical assistance and training and to really be able to help them figure out the next steps. And I just pray that we have the resources in the credit union to be able to refinance these loans and reprogram and provide new capital. And I just pray that you'll keep the staff safe as they move through this time helping these families, but also in the kind of the upcoming months, that you'll give them incredible wisdom to know how to place these loans and recover these companies so that they can increase their family incomes again and be able to provide for their homes. So we know the complexity of the situation, but God, we trust that you know each family. And at the same time, you're moving all of us into care for so many people that have lost their jobs and have reduced incomes. Lord, let us be that agent of your agent of change and your agent of transformation and restoration. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks again, Israel, for being here. We
Muchas gracias, Israel.
appreciate you taking the time and yeah, stay healthy and be well.
Por favor, mantenerte seguro y saludable, por favor, en todo lo que están haciendo.
Gracias.
And everybody, thanks for joining us. And don't forget today's deadline to be able to sign up for the Enlace coffee for this month, to get it in May. And then the next batch will come in June. So sign up today, enlacecoffee.com. And we'll see you again on Thursday. And please let us know what you think of the show and any other ideas that you might have of guests or topics that we can be covering. We love being a part of this, and we're really grateful for you tuning in. So we'll see you later.
Thank you all. God bless you. Have a great day.